Hey, Julie Lawson here from Rains Institute. In this video, I'm talking about self-care. Self-care is something that's getting a lot of buzz right now, and rightfully so. We are living in stressful times, under stressful conditions, and that's on top of what was a pretty busy schedule already and a difficulty balancing work and life for many of us, even prior to the pandemic. So now we're dealing with this world that just feels chaotic and stressful, and really, frankly, we feel a little burned out. So self-care really plays an important role in relieving some of those symptoms. But what I want to do in this video is help you understand why you may not really be achieving everything that you want to achieve in terms of self-care. In other words, you engage in the self-care and you read the article and you say, well, I went and had the massage. Why don't I feel better? I'm hopefully going to give you a little insight into why that may be happening and how you can fix that. So let's talk about what you think of as self-care. Usually when we think of self-care, we think of meal preparation to get good food into our bodies, getting enough sleep, getting enough exercise, making sure that we spend a little bit of personal time for ourselves every day, even if it's 5-10 minutes, to meditate or to read something that is important to us mentally or spiritually. But we don't think of it in terms of doing the things that balance us mind, body, and spirit so that we can be our best selves. I'm going to say that again. The way that I define self-care is the practices that balance us mind, body, and spirit so that we can be our best selves. So those things that keep us from being our best selves, even the things that we can't control, often lend to why we would need to engage in a self-care practice. For example, we don't think of the difficult things as being self-care, like paying our bills. If you are feeling financial stress, sometimes the urge is to go out and just buy yourself something nice, the shirt you wanted, or spend money on, a new electronic, whatever it is that would kind of spoil you and nurture you. And yet that's not really what self-care is. What self-care would be in that instance is really sitting down, maybe even with a financial planner or someone who's great at accounting, figure out a budget that's manageable for you, putting the right numbers into that budget and figuring out how you're going to practice that budget. Because in the long run, not the short term, but the long run, you're going to feel more balanced when you're spending money in the way that is important to you and meets all of your needs and does so in a responsible way. So really, for me, self-care in that moment is what's going to make me feel responsible and not feel this sense of stress all the time about my bills being paid. Using that example. Using a different example for not feeling productive at work. I'm going to dig in and figure out what the underlying problem is. So in this case, the underlying problem may be that the pandemic has caused changes in my workplace that keep me from being at full productivity, or perhaps I'm feeling a little bit burned out. And so I've got to figure out how to self-motivate myself to feel more productive. Or perhaps I'm setting unrealistic expectations of myself and comparing myself to people in unrealistic ways, and maybe setting a bar I'm never going to be able to hit, and therefore constantly in this loop of feeling not quite worthy or low-grade depression or anxiety. And so in that case, the self-care looks like figuring out what's driving that sensation, driving that feeling, examining those expectations, forgiving maybe ourselves for not being 100% all the time, because none of us are. Figuring out what is realistic expectations. So not keeping the bar high and then saying, well, it's okay, you didn't hit that today. How about lowering the bar to something that's realistic and not comparing ourselves to people who have different lives and different skills and different abilities. That would be another example, more from an emotional perspective, of how we dig in and do the work and say, what's driving this issue and how do I fix it? And the how I fix it is the self-care practice. So there's no right formula for self-care. It's really what will help you achieve balance. If you are feeling spiritually unwell or kind of unplugged from the world, it's taking the time to get out into nature. That may mean sacrificing something. It may mean sacrificing a warm bed on an early morning. I know for me, early morning nature walks are really important to my spirituality. I don't always want to get out of bed when it's cold. So it's difficult sometimes. We have to make sacrifices in order to practice self-care in the best way. It's getting up on time and getting enough sleep to get up on time. So turning off the TV, the self-care thing may seem like the TV show that helps us check out and we want to unplug from the world, but the true self-care thing there is turning it off and going to bed on time so that your body gets enough rejuvenation and refreshment to make it through the next day. It means sitting down with friends and saying, I'm at 10. I need a little bit of help. I need to vent, or I need to unload some things and have a moment to just sort of express my frustration with the world around me right now. That's part of self-care. All of these things may not always feel good. They may not always be the easy way out. And they're not the quick fix, but they're the long-term fix. They're what help us feel our balanced selves on a long-term basis. So what I want you to do, even if it's the difficult thing, I want you to figure out what is causing you the most stress or anxiety in your life. Whether that's financial, it's spiritual, it's mental, it's a relationship, it's work, it's all of the above, who knows? Figure out what that is, and then I want you to write down 3 things that would help relieve that pressure, relieve that sensation. Even if you can't fully fix it or fully control it, what would help you do that in a healthy way? So not going to the cupcake. I say that because that's usually my my go-to. It's not eating the cupcakes all the time, though a cupcake occasionally is fine. But rather, what practice can you put in place that is really going to make you say, that would make me feel better? That would make me feel like I'm living my best life and my best self. Being responsible, being kind, being generous, being in a place of gratitude, being spiritually connected, being physically responsible for myself with sleep and eating and exercise. All of those things are what make me feel like I'm my best self. And for anything that I do that robs me of that, the self-care is the antidote. So I have to do the hard things, the vulnerable things, the difficult things that then bring me back around and say, you know what, that was tough, but I feel balanced again. I feel better where I'm at, and I feel more ready to take on the world around me. It is doing the hard things. And so it's not that I want to bring you bad news on that. It's that I think we get stuck sometimes thinking that the nap should have fixed us, or the manicure should have fixed us, or that lunch should have fixed us. And it doesn't, because it really is about self-examination on an individual level and saying, what is keeping me from being 100% mind, body, and spirit, or close to, having reasonable expectations about that, being our best selves. And also then, how can I do that in a way that is forgiving and understanding and allows myself to not always hit the mark, but hit it enough times that I'm feeling good about where I'm at. Hopefully this was helpful. Hopefully when you think now about self-care, you're going to come at it with a different frame of mind and think, what do I have to do to feel my best, to feel my most responsible, to feel like I'm the best person that I can be? And that is going to be your secret to the right self-care practice. Until next time, thank you. If you enjoy what you're seeing, hit subscribe, and I will see you later. Thanks.